Hey guys, welcome back to the Think Global and Work Local podcast. In today's episode, we're gonna have a conversation with another talented individual, and his name is Martin Su. Welcome, Martin.
Hello everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for making the time. And I usually like to start the podcast by asking about yourself. So why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself to the audience out there? Yeah.
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Martin. I'm an environmentalist. I've been working a lot on the environmental field, sustainability for a while now. I first started out with more on waste topic, and later on I shifted to the topic of circular economy. And also during that time I also worked a little bit about on the topic of climate change, but more on finance. And now I'm kind of moved to the whole textile industry, but also still focusing on sustainability topics, both on production and also materials.
I find your background very interesting because you said like you're into sustainability, but now you're also doing like textile manufacturing. So what did you study in the university? Or like was it like completely different from?
Yeah, completely different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I double major in international studies
Okay.
and communication.
Oh, you do communication.
Yeah,
Okay.
but more on the theory part, not to like be a reporter, journalist type of communication, but more on how do you media influence people? How does
Okay.
movie influence people? What does it trying to say with that poster?
Yeah.
Talk about racism, talk about like gender issue, inequality through communication.
Oh,
That kind
okay.
of communication studies. I also had a minor in environmental studies, but it was just more for like so I can get into some classes or some topics. But that was kind of my background in college.
Okay. So, and you studied in NTU, right?
No, I studied in University of Washington in
Oh, in
Seattle.
the States.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But you started the 350, you were like in the 350, like as the country coordinator for Taiwan.
Yes,
And then that was for NTU or
that was after
after?
graduation.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
after graduation. That was back in 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was me and a few other guys wanted to have that kind of chapter per se in Taiwan
Okay.
to conduct some movements. So along with the regional coordinator, we started the organization, try to talk about climate change in Taiwan through the support of 350 Network.
Okay. So you studied in the States, and then did you go back to Taiwan immediately after you finished your studies? Or?
No. I
Okay.
used to work in the waste industry. That's what the background was after college. I guess you can imagine it's like the garbage truck in Taiwan, but in the States it's mostly private. So we're just one of the companies that pick up trash, recyclables, and compostables, organic waste for the citizens. So I was doing outreach and sales for the company before coming back to Taiwan.
Before coming back to Taiwan. And then how long did you do this for?
Like a little over a year.
Oh, okay. So you, after college, you work in the States in this field. I'm just curious, like what makes you interested in this kind of like industry?
I mean, I've been working on some kind of like student groups throughout the whole 4 years in college. And one of the big key topics for our organization is waste. And we wanted to reduce waste, but also try to educate people on the topic because we cannot believe that it's a important issue that no matter who you are, you need to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that concept. It's like, no matter where you're coming from, no matter your religion, race, or your ethnicity, or, your socioeconomic class, you still wear trash every day.
Yeah.
And that decision and that action matters because it will influence the, downstream recycling process, but also about how much you throw away. So I'm very keen on that topic. So kind of connect to that. I want to find a job that relates to that. So that's why I went to the whole so-called waste management industry.
So after that, you came back to Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you do after you came back to Taiwan?
Well, if you're from Taiwan and a guy, you go to the military.
That's true.
That's the first thing.
That's the first thing I have to do.
So yeah, I mean, that was the time I actually spent in Taipei quite a bit because I had my service in Taipei as the subsidy service at Taipei City Hall. But it was also during that time I went to a lot of events and explored the city and the organizations that kind of connects me to my first job at the circular. I think they call it Taiwan Circular Network now, a foundation promoting circular economy. That was kind of it's basically an NGO, more focusing on trying to influence the government, have the whole concept of circular economy in mind when they conduct their policy planning. So that was kind of the I guess, transitional connection. Later, I realized I'm not that keen to talk to the government per se. So I wanted to be doing something more hands-on in a way.
Okay.
So I stumbled upon another startup that focused on also the same topic with circular economy, a startup named Renato Lab. And during that time, we do a lot of public outreach, education through exhibitions.
Okay.
But we also do some B2B case on e-waste, kind of my next stage. In the whole field. And it was actually also during that time when we were asking about the 350. But it was more like on a very volunteer base. And it was not till 2018 I went into full-time, left the startup job, and just do 350 work. But it was also during that time I started to help out a little bit with the textile.
Okay. With the family business now.
Yeah.
Okay. 2018. And then from 2018 until now, like you're full-time into the family business.
Yeah, slowly but surely, yeah.
So what did you do like in your current like position?
So official title at the company right now, I'm the CSO, the Chief Sustainability Officer. So I oversee 3 business at the company. One is focusing on material development. Since we produce for footwear companies around the globe, like New Balance, Adidas, Puma, all those kinds. We're looking into what kind of material that fits into the idea of a circular economy in regard to either biocycle or technical cycle. So that's one of them. Aside from material, we also do production. We're also looking to new innovative ways to produce with less usage of resources, whether it's chemical, water, and energy or waste.
Oh, okay.
The third part is more brand facing. So a lot of brands have regulations, have certification needs, audits that I need to do every year. I'm also the one who deal with that in our department to make sure everything goes smoothly, nothing happens. So that's kind of my main function nowadays with these 3, I guess, directions, you can say.
If we actually look back and connect the dots, what you've been doing is all like related with the sustainability and environment, with the currents like trends and a lot of news and like a lot of people are going to like net zero and all that. What do you think about your approach to that, or your thinking in terms of current things that we're doing with the actual output or result? Or the impact, probably.
It's definitely the right track in the direction that we wanted anyway.
Yeah.
And we did set up a plan, or I guess a goal back in 2019 that we wanted to hit towards, during the time we call it carbon neutral.
Yeah.
I guess now the language will be more net zero.
Net zero, yeah.
And so back in 2019, we set up a goal we wanted to head toward net zero by 2030. So everything that I've been doing up to this point is, gearing toward that goal. So both about the material that we choose, the production that we wanted to become, wanting to head toward that direction. So it's all related from the very beginning. Yeah.
So from communication and now you're into like sustainability, do you see any transferable skills that you actually learned back then and into what you're currently doing?
When I was a student, I had no intention to go into communication as a job.
Ah, okay. It was just pure interest?
Pure interest. The same with international studies. I didn't want it to become like a foreign minister or whatever of any kind, or like policymaker or whatever. So when I was doing those 2 studies, I actually had a focus. You can choose a focus within the major. It was all on sustainability or some kind of environmental topics. So I looked into the collaboration or not between countries or entities or cities on sustainability efforts. When I studied communication, it was also about how does the piece of information influence people's mind on sustainability efforts or not. So for me, that helped because I can understand in that time and also nowadays how people interact on different issues and especially on sustainability topics.
Yeah.
So I think if you ask me if it translates, I think it does. Like the awareness and the knowledge of where to look for information and also policy. Like for international studies, like nowadays, what you just talk about net zero, every government, cities in the world are talking about it. So if you know where to look for it and who actually matters in a way, it helps. So I think that kind of direct or indirect translate to what I do today to help me to find the information or can connect the dots better. To what I do today, because I think it's still related. I need to communicate what I do outward.
Yeah.
So I need to understand how people think about the topic. I also need to look for information policy related, either in Taiwan or elsewhere in the world, in the EU or the US. I also need to know the dynamic of the different regions, and that was kind of part of my training per se when I was in school. So I think that was helpful to understand how to do research, to interpret news, to find the news, and also to read the lines about what's going on.
Well, Taiwan is like a country that is very like abide to the law. But in terms of the law and regulations here compared to probably that you've seen in the US or in the Europe, do you think we're still like right track in terms of like sustainability?
Right track, yeah. Could be faster, of course. So yeah, I mean, I think overall Taiwan knows what the world's going on, and especially our economy is heavily influenced by the global market. A lot of it's export oriented. So you have to kind of listen to or like be aware of what the economy is going. And if sustainability is a trend with what the net zero is saying, then you better listen to it. And I think the government is reacting to it, but is it fast enough? Maybe not.
Do your clients actually care about this part a lot? Or if like they care, like what aspect of it that they actually care the most?
So a lot of my clients have signed some kind of agreements or commitments, globally, as under the CDP or SBTI, reduce their emissions by 2025, 7%. 2030, certain percent with scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, what have you. So in that regard, I guess that kind of need to care. But how does that translate into action and how do they influence us to change? It varies. Some of them are more aggressive than the other. That's kind of how it is. But they all have very similar goals, especially toward 2030.
Oh, okay. So in your day-to-day work, what is a day of the Martin Su looks like?
Well, I mean, so
of course, for rice, right? But like in general, like
sure. So every week we have a weekly meeting for my team and also kind of externally with other departments. So we basically go through what we need to do that week, covering different topics that basically range to the material development. So we list out different goals that we need to do for that specific topic for the year, and we basically track projects that relate to those topics. And once we have that done, when the meeting is done, you basically, divide the work up between the team and you basically do the work. So I will look into my calendar, I will look into my, to-do list of that week. Whatever comes on the top priority, I'll deal with it first and follow through that to-do list throughout the day. That's basically what it is. Depending on what that demands of. And also, obviously, there are some meetings and some requirements about the work that will come in between. But that's kind of the workflow. And sometimes we do need to go to the factory to check on stuff. Or there are some audits, people from externally will come in that we need to go in to say hello and see what's up. So
for your current business, as the operation is fully based in Taiwan, or you also have other
so the headquarters in Taiwan, but always have operations in China, Indonesia, and Vietnam.
Okay, because you have such a global experience. And you've worked in the States and now you're running the family business as well in Taiwan. Do you face any culture shock probably after you come back from the States in Taiwan?
I think the culture shock comes more between the industries. Because I kind of used to work in the more startup NGO realm. With few people, much less resources. I wouldn't say less structure, but not that many people. So the divisional work, it was always not that clear. But now it's a much larger scheme of departments and divisional work. Somebody doing finance, somebody doing sales, somebody just marketing, whatever you. That is the shock, or it's a cultural shock to me. You don't see the whole picture that easily. Back in the days, let's do a weekly meeting. Everybody's here. But now, when you do a meeting, only less than 1/3 of the team. So you don't see everybody. So I think for me, that's more of the difference that you don't actually know fully what everybody's doing, but you also kind of need to know so you can actually collaborate with different departments. And also the mindset is different. And also I think the age is different compared to the younger generation who are more passionate about what they're doing versus people who are in their mid-age, have families and just it's a job. So that mentality and passion level will be different as well. So I think that's more of the industrial differences less than Taiwan versus the US situation.
So how do you adjust yourself? You have employees that probably a lot older than you, probably the way that they speak, and do you face challenges in that regards, or?
Sometimes. Sometimes, definitely. I mean, they all. I mean, I always joke about this because I still look kind of young for my peer groups, and
you're still young.
But that's the problem, though. I was always telling as a guy looking young in the industry, it does not help at all.
Oh, they want you to look old.
I don't think they want me to look old, but looking old will help me to create more credibility. As if I'm a woman, it might be more a compliment. Because if I'm in a meeting with somebody, you'll be like, "Oh, you look young." It's never a good thing. And I'm not just talking about Taiwan. You might have to talking to people in other parts in Asia. I once meeting with a Korean guy. I was like, "You look kind of young." I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, "Yeah, it probably doesn't mean a good thing, but what can I do?" So it definitely has that kind of dynamic, and you kind of need to prove your worth, right? Like why are you here doing this, and do you know what you're talking about? That kind of stuff. So you're just gonna need to make sure they know you know what's going on. And you need to be respectful of what's going on with their mentality and situations. And a lot of times, especially if you go to like the factory part, also people are older and most of them actually don't use Mandarin. They use mostly Taiwanese, even overseas. So it's a very
even
interesting.
Overseas.
It's interesting dynamic, yeah. So it's definitely a different vibe.
If you didn't come back to Taiwan, do you think you will do something still related with sustainability, or it would be completely different?
It would be related. I mean, that's the reason why I left. I could have stayed in the States doing a totally different job.
Okay.
Yeah, probably like a restaurant manager for one of the Chinese restaurants. No joke.
Really?
It was offer. Yeah, but I didn't take it.
You didn't take it?
No, because I didn't want to stay in the States just to stay. I wanted to do something I wanted to do. If that means I need to leave, I leave.
Okay, so you have like your clear vision from the start.
Yeah.
Okay. There is like one advice that you will tell to your younger self, not knowing like everything that you've done right now. What would it be?
I will probably just tell myself that I had to route that I will have more impact. Then I should speed up of my involvement, because one thing I guess I didn't really mention, I didn't really go all in when I started the whole work with the business.
You mean with the current textile?
Yeah, I just kind of started with more like a side job.
But do you have like any pressure from the family?
I go in 1 day a week.
Oh,
okay. That time. Then 2 days, 2019, 3 days, 2020, 4 days, 2021. And then we start the whole sustainability department, and then I got my position, and I, of course, full time, and I go in every day. So if I were to go back in time to talk to myself, I'd be like, just start full time. Because it would have more impact and have more influence of the whole business structure comparatively.
With all of your stories and your past experience, why do you actually do what you do now? Like, what is your why? Because you're so into sustainability, and like all your like efforts after, like even before, was like related to environmental or like sustainability.
It's actually from a young age.
From a young age.
From a young age, yeah. So when I was in kindergarten, one day I realized I would die.
Okay.
Yeah, like I would disappear from this earth. And I was very afraid, and I cried a lot that night before going to bed. And my mom tried to comfort me, and I also say goodbye to my old stuffed animal, like, I'm gonna die, so take care of yourself.
Oh.
And from that point on, that kind of haunted me, like the fear of death. But somehow that fear transformed to that earth, or I fear the earth would die before me. But I didn't really do anything different. I try to finish my food, have no food waste. I try to not throw, trash on the floor. I recycle all that stuff. So nothing special, I think. But not till when I actually left Taiwan when I was 14 to the US for high school. First, I started to realize, there's only, one recycle bin.
There's only one, yeah.
Or there's none at all sometimes. So people throw trash everything into the same black bin. Didn't think of it much at all till the third year. I had a class on environmental science. Then I was like, okay, maybe I should do something about it. I ran for the student government and I got it. So I started to investigate what's going on. I actually worked with the president in that time, and we basically set out the whole recycling system for high school.
Wow.
And that was kind of that point I realized, maybe I can actually do something about this whole sustainability topic. So from that point on, from high school to college, I started to participate in a lot of environmental organizations on campus and off campus. And I also wanted to make it kind of my career, like my job. So that connects to why I wanted to work in the waste sector, because that's kind of a topic I really enjoy.
So there is actually like a personal story, like a personal touch behind.
Personal drive. I guess,
personal drive. Well, Martin, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. But before we actually end this podcast, I want to ask you like one last question. If you have any one advice for probably the audience out there that are listening, they're probably in Taiwan now or they're overseas. They probably want to go back to Taiwan but still not sure, or they're already here but want to establish themselves more or make more impact. Like what is the one advice that you will give them?
When you are, in a way, passionate about what you want to do in life and try to find where the most resources. Sometimes it's not in Taiwan, right? Like if you want to do something that's more on research based on biochemistry or whatever, you might need to go to different countries. You might need to go somewhere else. So if that's kind of what you want to pursue, then so be it. That you might need to go to different place to look for that
one thing that you want to,
resource or technology or to fulfill your needs as a job or as a life path.
So it's important to know yourself, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because something that you want may not be here. But if what you care is not that kind of like pinnacle of excellence that you wanted to, make somebody's life better or make some, communities grow, maybe you stay. Because you have seen many things in your life. You have assets, connections, resources from outer space that you can bring to that community, whether it's from your hometown or not, that you can have a great impact in many people's life beyond yourself. So it really depends on what you want.
That's a really good, deep advice as well. Thank you so much again for making the time and sharing a lot of your personal story. Yeah, I think it will be very useful to all the listeners out there. But before we go, like in case like the audience out there want to connect with you or learn more about you, like how they should connect with you, what is the best way?
I'm online, as most Taiwanese, I guess. Also Facebook, LinkedIn, I guess. Also I have emails that maybe if you want to share, I can use that as well. So yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll include your LinkedIn here.
Or other information. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for listening to Think Global and Work Local podcast. See you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye.